All right, let's jump right in. Today we're taking a sharp, clinical look at a foundational strategy text. We're looking at Factfulness. Factfulness was written by Hans Rosling, Ola Rosling, and Anna Rosling Ronlund. Now, the architecture of Factfulness isn't just some basic summary of global trends. When Hans Rosling, Ola Rosling, and Anna Rosling Ronlund wrote Factfulness, they set out to aggressively challenge exactly how we process reality. We're going to apply the lens of Factfulness today to show you exactly how a highly intelligent mind can build and fiercely protect a completely false world.
So what if your most mature, well-thought-out choice is actually built on a teenage map? I mean, think about it. The chart you implicitly trust might still be making decisions for you long after it's expired. Let's establish right off the bat that this explainer is not about cheerful positive thinking. Not at all. It's a masterclass in disciplined map maintenance. It asks a deeply uncomfortable question. Have you literally allowed your fear to become your lead analyst?
I want you to think about your daily habits for a second. You wake up, you probably scan the news, open your dashboards, and look for threats, right? You call that scan maturity. You call it being informed. You collect the absolute worst edge of the day, and you carry it into choices that require shape, not shock. But here's the reality slap. Scanning for threats every morning actually turns your data into a fear filter. We start treating grimness as a proxy for rigor, and in doing so, we severely compromise our strategic choices. We end up choosing from the loudest data, not the most useful data.
You might even hear your own voice in this justification. You say, I see the world clearly because I absolutely refuse comforting progress stories. I know that sounds rigorous. We tell ourselves that if good news makes us lazy, then grim news must keep us awake. I really wish this weren't true. But look at where this logic leads us. If only grim data feels rigorous to you, then any sign of improvement feels like propaganda. And if improvement feels suspicious, you eventually learn to actively distrust the very healing data that could update your worldview. Your realism suddenly requires the world to stay broken just so your identity can stay intact.
So here's the dilemma we face. Trust the grim picture and freeze, or trust progress and sound completely naive. They both feel like losing, don't they? Because if you freeze, you waste the strategic window. But if you trust progress, you're terrified of looking soft. But here's the resolution. They're both symptoms of the exact same misunderstanding. Both options treat facts as a final verdict. And a verdict ends thought. But facts are meant to be a starting map, and a map starts movement.
To understand why our maps get so distorted, we need to look at what the book calls the gap instinct. Our minds absolutely love stuffing things into two dramatic boxes: rich versus poor, winners versus losers, safe versus broken. Why? Because two boxes drastically reduce cognitive effort. But when you compare that binary illusion with the reality of 4 distinct income levels, you see where the vast majority of people actually live. Right there in the middle. Real strategy requires the nuance of gradients. Binary maps completely erase the middle, and that false contrast leads directly to wrong choices.
In that binary thinking, it gets immediately compounded by the negativity instinct. This is the bias where slow, quiet improvement is completely overshadowed by loud, immediate bad news. For some reason, decline just feels more honest than improvement. Bad news arrives with a banging drum, right? But slow improvement arrives without a sound. You hear the crash, but you totally miss the repair. Confusing that emotional weight with actual evidence causes us to overbuy protection. We make highly defensive choices based on a completely misread trend.
I'm really not sure where this leaves us. Let's just sit with this for a second. Where exactly does this leave our decision-making? If our natural instincts are actively filtering out the positive trends and erasing the actual nuance of reality, how can we trust our strategic choices at all? The Roslings provide a brilliant biological analogy to explain this phenomenon. They call it the misfiring immune system. Now, in biology, an immune system has to detect threats for us to survive. That's obvious. But when a defense mechanism built to protect life begins attacking the very signals needed to adapt, it literally becomes the disease. Unchecked fear attacks the fresh facts that would actually help our strategies evolve. Your fear was built to guard your life and your business, but right now it is actively attacking the cure.
A blood slide becomes a world map. Just let that realization settle for a moment. Imagine red dots spreading across a glass slide under a microscope and then shifting into cities, roads, schools, and clinics. Your worldview is a living sample. It's not a static mirror you just look into. It's a living, breathing decision instrument that requires constant clinical updating. If you don't recalibrate it, reality is going to move right past you.
And if we fail to update that sample, we fall victim to this heavy insight on the single perspective instinct. A map with one color can still be accurate,
and completely useless. Expertise narrows as it deepens. The analyst always wants numbers. The activist always wants blame. The founder always wants speed. But using your one favorite tool on every single problem, that leads to elegant failure. It might be perfectly accurate in one specific dimension, but it's entirely useless for navigating the whole landscape.
Let's strip the emotion away entirely for a second and just look at a clinical inventory of these traps from Factfulness. The gap instinct, the negativity instinct, the single perspective instinct, the urgency instinct. Every single one of them distorts our judgment and creates a completely false sense of crisis. Drama gives the mind a sense of grip, but facts take that grip away. Which brings us to a second major dilemma in our decision-making framework. Act fast from fear versus wait for perfect certainty. If you act fast, you're trapped by the drama. If you wait, you hide inside research while time simply moves on without you. Both options falsely use facts as a shelter instead of a steering. You really don't need total certainty to move. You just need a better map than the one fear handed you.
This brilliantly illustrates our turning point today. The chart was not false. It was stale. That is a massive realization. Your past map wasn't a lie. It probably saved you during a bad season or a major crisis. But a tool that saved you back then can fatally mislead you right now. Choosing to rely on a stale chart today is a fatal strategic error. Your strongest opinion might honestly just be a fossil wearing a lab coat.
So how do we recalibrate? I want you to interrogate the internal instrument making your choices. Step 1, name the fact you fear. Step 2, name the fact you ignored. And step 3, name the source you trust. This is about slowing the drama before you speed the action. It is all about map maintenance.
The definitive rule for escaping the trap of outdated data is right here. Update the map, then move.
Access your growth map. Before anything else tomorrow, open one decision you are postponing. Write the fact you fear, the fact you ignored, and the source you trust. If you don't, you've chosen to stay exactly where you are.